Welcome, everyone. I see that yellow live button. I am here to welcome you to today's event, How to Leverage the Power of Inquiry to Gain Insight and Generate Innovative Solutions to Any Problem or Challenge You Face. I'm Robin Holland, and I'm your moderator. And I work with business owners and entrepreneurs who are feeling a little uninspired in their business. I help them reconnect to their mission and re-spark their message so they can unleash the full potential of their work in the world. And today, I'm so pleased to be moderating this event for Lisa Engels. I met Lisa a little over a year ago in a Google Hangout training. And I was so drawn to Lisa because she was so genuine and really, as she was learning, she was putting into practice everything she was learning in a way that perhaps I wasn't quite yet ready to do. I've watched Lisa's message and her inner sparkle become clearer and more radiant. And since I've known her, I've seen and come to really respect her as a powerful role model for all of us as she steps up more and more into her calling. And that's why she's so qualified to help people wake up and change the world. I look forward to what Lisa is going to share with us today. Before I bring Lisa in, I want to get into a couple of housekeeping subjects here to help you have the best experience with this Hangout. Be sure all distractions are turned off. Your phone, web browsers. You don't want to have any interruptions during this class. And in particular, with respect to audio and video on your computer, your system governs the experience that you have. So to optimize that, you want to turn everything off that's not this Hangout on your computer, especially something like Skype that will be taking extra bandwidth. Your computer's bandwidth and your internet speed combine to give you the experience here. So let's see, what were the other things I wanted to tell you about that? I think that's it on the audio and video. It is live streaming, and that's why all these things are important. Lisa loves engagement, so please, we already have a few people here who've said that they're here. Comment, tell us that you're participating and where you're viewing from. And also, we will have a live post-workshop virtual classroom meeting so you can be inside and meet with us face-to-face. I did put the link for G+ in the comments. And if you don't already have a profile link, you can make that really quickly, which will allow you to hop in and meet with us face-to-face. There will also be a replay of this Hangout, which you will receive an email about. And now I want to introduce Lisa. Lisa is an evolutionary entrepreneur, consultant, mentor, and awakener. Lisa is the founder and owner of Interstate Coaching, and there she mentors people who are waking up and changing the world. Lisa believes that humanity is collectively experiencing the symptoms of awakening, but is largely unaware of how to navigate through that turmoil and the upheavals of that. And in response to that, Lisa hosts 2 shows on Google Hangouts, Hangouts with Visionary Leaders and The Power of Practice. And her shows address the inherent challenges and opportunities of the consciousness shift, while also offering innovative ideas and practical resources to help us through this journey. And so through her shows, I've watched her develop a global audience and a global clientele. Lisa has mastered the art of creating deep and authentic levels of connection with her audience, and she has quickly risen among her colleagues to be seen as an expert in harnessing digital potential, which is to serve in the development of our human and social potential. Lisa has over 20 years of coaching, mentoring, and consulting experience, and she's known for her compassionate, creative, intuitive abilities. Today, Lisa isn't here just to talk about innovation. She has proven herself as an innovator. After identifying an emerging group of entrepreneurs who no longer respond to the traditional marketing that we are all taught of pushing pain points and of doing email marketing campaigns or sales videos to get noticed, Lisa has innovated in the space of Google Hangouts to double her business profits last year by launching a program called Hangout Strategies for Visionary Leaders. And that came actually from asking herself the question of, do I have to follow these rules, or is there a better way to do this? She also leveraged that power of inquiry to write a book and develop a program, hello, there we go, geared towards fitness enthusiasts and the fit over 40 crowd who are suffering from chronic pain and injury. Some key questions led to her discovery that the breath is the missing link to healing and recovery for people with chronic problems. So her book, Breathe, Run, Breathe, is about how to use ancient breathing techniques to turn one's daily run or walk into an effortless, revitalizing, and mindful practice. So all that to say, Lisa walks her talk, whether it's about using inquiry or using practice. This is what she has to share with us. And she loves teaching this stuff, so you're in for a real treat. So now, Lisa.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you so much for that introduction and for being the co-host with me of today's training. It's so nice to not be sitting here by myself and just doing a hangout by myself. And thank you to everybody who's here right now. I know some people have actually emailed me and said they'd be coming in late or watching the replay. So I really am thankful for all of you that are here, Pamela and Albert and Janet and Terry and everybody else who's starting to come into our virtual training space as well. It's wonderful to see you all here, right? And we have a lot to cover in a short period of time. I do want to let you know that you're in the right place if you know that you're here to do big things and make an impact in the world, but maybe you're at a loss for how to do that right now. Or maybe there's been something really stirring inside of you and you don't know how to direct that energy. Or maybe you know, I'm already doing my work in the world and I've been doing my work in the world, but I'm ready to make that next leap, that quantum leap in how I am making an impact in the world. Or maybe you're here because you're facing a crisis, whether that's in your personal life or your professional life, in your business, or some area of your life. Maybe you're experiencing a type of crisis, a struggle, and you know that finding your way out of this struggle, of this challenge that you're faced with is going to require a new type of thinking. It's going to require some type of innovative solution. So here's the thing. The thing is that all problems are really an issue of perspective. And it's inquiry and asking questions that are really a fundamental piece to gaining insight that you would never have had before, that you would never have had access to before. It's the inquiry that's going to help you to generate those innovative solutions and ideas, and it's that will literally catapult you and catalyze your breakthroughs. So problems are really, again, a perspective issue, and inquiry, and what we're going to be talking about today with inquiry, is something to help you to gain that perspective, right? Now, the secondary problem in all of this is that, yes, problems are a perspective issue, and inquiry is a piece of that solution to it, but the unfortunate thing is that most of us were not taught how to ask questions, how to thoughtfully ask questions. We all have questions that we ask, but did you know that at the age of, I think it's like 3 years old, this is pretty crazy, Robin, you know, because you have kids as well. At the age of 3 or 4, kids ask like 300 questions a day. Do you remember that time in your life, Robin, when your daughter?
Totally.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, why? How come? I don't understand. But then, by the time kids are a junior in high school, they ask this many questions. 0 questions. Like, they actually stop asking questions. And when I read this, I asked my daughter, who's 12 years old, how many questions do you think you ask a day? And this was really funny because this is subjective. It's funny to ask your kids, well, how many questions do you think you ask a day? My daughter, she's like looking, she's like, I ask about 100 questions a day in class. I'm like, really? Like, so she's like, oh yeah, in Mr. So-and-so's class, my history class, I ask at least 50. That's like at least half of the questions that I ask in a day. I'm like, oh, okay. So anyways, I just thought that was interesting. We're not taught how to ask questions.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But we do forget how to ask. So that's really what today is about. I'm going to actually do a little screen share with you guys. You'll notice that I'll go back and forth between screen shares here with you. So just let me pull something up on the screen for you. And so you can see what we're going to be covering today. So what we're going to be covering today, what we're going to be learning today is exactly what is inquiry. You're also going to be learning the top 3 reasons why people don't ask questions. This is sort of an answer to that. How come we go from being a 3-year-old who asks 300 questions a day to a 12-year-old who asks 100 questions a day to a teenager who really goes down to nothing per day? What are the top 3 reasons why people don't ask questions, and then the types of questions that are bound to keep you stuck, and on the other hand, the types of questions that are going to catalyze innovative solutions for you. We're also going to look at why inquiry is a cornerstone of success in all areas of your life, and what I'll do in this part of our training today is give you examples, because I think that examples speak to us better when we have examples we can compare and relate to them. So I'll give you a few examples of what happens when you ask the right questions and what happens when you ask the wrong questions. You'll also learn how to use inquiry really effectively in the 2 types of questions. Actually, there's 3 general areas, but the 2 main types of questions, and when to use those questions. And then you're also going to be learning a very simple but powerful, very powerful inquiry practice that you can begin to use today to gain insight and generate innovative solutions. And then we're going to move from that practice, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you can combine inquiry with key evolutionary practices really to create quantum leaps in perspective and in all areas of your life. And then also we'll be covering the very end how you can turn all of this information that I'm going to be giving you today into innovation, into transformation, whether that's in your personal or your professional life. So that is what we're going to be covering today. And let's see if I want to show you the next slide where we're at. Oh yeah, this is a good one. As we move into the content, here's a quote from Peter Drucker. He's no longer living, but he was a really famous money guy and professor, and I believe it was Harvard, and he's just known as one of the leaders and forerunning thinkers in the realm of finances and money. But he says the important and difficult job is never to find the right answers, it's to find the right questions. For there are few things as useless, if not dangerous, as the right answer to the wrong question. Pretty provocative, I think, a fairly provocative quote. How many times, I don't know, I like to think about that, Robin. I don't know about you, but like how many times have I found the right answer? Woohoo! I found the answer. It's the wrong question.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, so many times. Yeah. There are those questions that we're firing up to ourselves all the time that are subliminal, or ones that are coming from our subconscious that we keep answering that are keeping us off track.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Exactly. And then that all just is is really a matter of understanding how to find the right questions, which this turns everything on its head, right? This turns logical thinking in the way that we're taught, which is what I want to go into right now, about what is inquiry. So let me just dive into that. So inquiry, as we know, inquiry is just asking questions. There's not really any fancy definition that I'm going to tell you for what is inquiry. It is just simply in and of itself at the most basic fundamental level. It's the practice of asking questions, but not, like Peter Drucker said, it's not just about asking any question. Inquiry is a skill that requires learning how to ask the right questions, because questions in and of themselves hold the potential to cultivate and create these expanded perspectives and insights. But why is it then that we don't ask more questions? How come we go from being that 3-year-old who asks 300 questions a day to being an adult who doesn't ask any questions at all? And there's a few reasons, and and they're not in any particular order, but I'm just going to say them. So the first reason is that answers are actually more valued than questions, and it's sort of sad. This has to do with our educational system. I love having a 12-year-old as well. This because as I was preparing for today, I was asking her questions. Well, what do you think? Like, do your teachers ever teach you to ask questions? And she's like, no, they just want to know the answers, right? We get in our educational system, we get graded on giving the right answers, not asking the right questions, and that's unfortunate, but that's true. So answers, one of the top reasons why we don't ask more questions is because answers are more valued, and we've been taught that answers are more valued since we were kindergartners, or even preschoolers. 1 and 1 is 2, right? We were just taught to give answers, not to ask questions, and so that's how we've been programmed. Okay, second reason is that I think that this also goes along with the answers are more valued, is we don't want to look stupid. How many times does a kid get reprimanded in school? And I'm not saying I know that every school is like this, but I remember I went to Catholic school. I don't know what your schooling was like, Robin, but I grew up and I had nuns as my teachers, and math was the scariest subject for me because I always gave the wrong answer. And so finally there came a point in time when I just said, I'm not even going to answer that question because I don't know and I'm going to look stupid. So we don't want to look stupid. And from what I know in working with clients, this pervades this piece and the next piece, which is we don't want to challenge the status quo, or we're afraid to challenge the status quo, is the third reason why we don't ask more questions. And these two reasons really pervade, especially in businesses that have big teams or corporate businesses where, for instance, my aunt works for Boeing. She works for Boeing, and it's a big corporation. She's a trainer, and she has lots of great ideas, but they get squashed, and it's like the status quo is there in their corporate culture where this is what the CEO says that he wants, and there are no questions. There's no room for anything other than what the top management wants. And I don't know how you've experienced that, or if you have that type of experience, Robin, in the work even that you've done.
The idea that you have to perform to a specific thing that they're exactly wanting. I was just noting back to Pamela, who made a comment about teachers. She said, I asked my 12-year-old nephews if their teachers really wanted to know what they thought, and she said their teachers cared, but when it came to the tests, they just want the correct answers. And I think teachers or people in management, teachers are bound to teach to the test, and in jobs too, we get into this little almost funnel mind that we have to do a certain thing, and there's no room for an inquiry outside of that. It's very limiting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so here's what I think, what I've come to the conclusion is the result of these three things, of answers being more valued, we're afraid to look stupid, and we don't want to challenge the status quo, is that that sets us up, the result of it is that we now have a weak questioning intelligence, or QI, I like to call it, a QI. We have a weak questioning intelligence. And that's not very good, but the truth is that most people do have a weak questioning intelligence, and it's a skill that we just need to refine and build our questioning muscles all over again. So yeah, that is the basics of why we don't ask more questions in and of themselves. So I'm going to hop back over to screen share again for just a moment, and show you this quote, because we're going to sort of look at why is inquiry really a cornerstone of success. And Einstein says that raising new questions to solve a problem requires creative imagination. So I think that that's key as we begin to talk about why inquiry is a cornerstone of success. And the main reason for me being something that I already mentioned is that it gives us perspective. Inquiry gives us perspective that we never would have had otherwise. When you ask yourself the right questions, again, you gain new perspectives. And in order to get unstuck or to tap into your creative capacities to find those innovative solutions, you must begin to see things differently. I like to talk about it as seeing with the eyes of a visionary. It's like, I love this picture of the eagle because that's like an immense forest beneath the eagle. And if you're just one tree amongst this huge forest and you're not seeing from this eagle's eye view the whole forest, well then you're seeing from a limited perspective. And what Einstein knew and what all other innovators know is that when we identify a problem in our life, that our subconscious mind actually begins to come up with a question. And when we generate a question, our brain actually starts to look for those answers. So I'm going to say that again. When we identify a problem in our life, our subconscious mind is going to automatically come up with a question. And when we generate a question, our brain is going to start to look for answers. But the problem is that most of us are seeing the world through a limited perspective. We don't have that eagle's eye view. And if we fail to ask ourselves the wrong questions, then we're going to get stuck. And so belaboring this point of asking the right questions. But let's take a look at what happens when we ask the wrong questions. And I'm going to just go on. We already know that the wrong questions keep us stuck. So I'm going to sort of look here at this next slide. And I'm just going to keep it on screen share for just a moment here. And Robin, if you have any anything you want to add to this, please feel free to hop in. So here's some really typical things. I know as a coach, as a mentor, that there are 3 general areas that people struggle with, right? They struggle with their money, they struggle with their relationships, and they struggle with their health. So, you know, we can find tons and tons of programs out there that help you make more money, that help you find the love of your life, and that help you fit into the skinny jeans, right? So here's what most people do. They have a problem, and their problem is, crap, my business is struggling. And then a typical question that they would ask themselves is, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I've taken 10 courses, I've hired a coach, I'm still not making any money. And their question becomes focused on a disempowering question. Right? Their mind is focused on a disempowering question, and then the answer to that question is usually something along, there must be something wrong with me, I'm an idiot, I'm just not made to be a business owner, which then puts you into a downward spiral, right? Or yeah.
It makes you you're looking for the answers in all the wrong places because you're starting out with a question that's sending you there.
All the wrong places.
Exactly.
You're looking for the answers in the wrong places. Absolutely. Or another typical problem. I've been dating for 3 years and I still haven't found, the one, the prince, the queen, or whoever of my dreams. And a typical question might be, well, are there really any good men, or are there really any good women out there left? And when you ask yourself a question like that, the answer is usually like, there's no good men out there. There just aren't any. I've had so many friends tell me that, especially as I'm in my 40s and I have a handful of women friends who are single now, and for whatever reasons, and they're like, there just aren't any good men. And it's like, well, okay, let's sort of rethink what's going on here.
I have a really good one for that, Lisa. When I was in my 30s, and I was a little scared of dating, I had some reasons, but I had this thought that God was going to bring me the right person, and my question was, why hasn't God brought me the right person yet? And when I switched to, what am I doing to keep me from my honey, then it changed. It changed almost immediately, by switching that question.
Totally. Absolutely. That's a great one. And I come from the realm of personal training. In my 20s and into my 30s, I was doing a lot of work in the health and fitness realm. And so I was working with a lot of people who are trying to lose weight or get more fit, or I just want to be in shape. So the problem might be something like, I'm 20 pounds overweight, and then this was typical for a client to come to me and say, well, I can't lose weight. Why can't I lose weight? I've tried everything. I've tried cleansing. I've tried dieting. I've tried personal training, and I'm still not losing any weight. And then the answer, to that, an answer might be, oh, it's just heredity. It's in my genes. It's, again, the answers aren't very empowering when you come from this perspective. And so what I want to do now is look at asking how to ask the right question, and how asking the right question can really create quantum breakthroughs for you. And I'm going to use two of my own examples, and then you guys that are out there, if you have examples of this, please put them into the chat. That would be awesome. So here's let me go down. There we go. Here's one of the problems that I was dealing with, and Robin talked about it in the intro in the beginning. So I used to work with a lot of endurance sport athletes and triathletes, runners, and they're always riddled with chronic pain and injury. And even though I was not only a running and triathlon coach, I was also a personal trainer and a life coach, so I felt like I had the full package going on there when I was working with my clients. I was wondering, how come they still have chronic pain and injury, even though they're doing strength training, massage, chiropractic, all of those types of things. So the question that I asked myself was, well, what's the real cause of the chronic pain and injury with endurance sport athletes, with fitness enthusiasts? And the answer that I came up with, or that came to me, was, well, it's stress, not just physical stress, but mental and emotional stress, and oxidative stress, which is stress at a physiological level. And then so I asked myself, well, what's the main cause of this type of stress? And believe it or not, the answer was improper breathing. And I'm giving you a really quick rundown of how I did this. And then it was, so improper breathing. And then my next question was, well, what if I could teach endurance sport athletes and fitness enthusiasts how to breathe correctly in order to heal their body and recover faster? And out of that, what was born was a book. I wrote and published a book. I created a 12-week program. I ended up producing 2 professionally produced 60-minute guided audio sessions to listen to while you either run or walk. I was invited to speak on stage for USA Triathlon, for several big fitness conferences. I was invited to telesummits. I got invited to be a podcast guest and hang out on air guests eventually as well. So you can see that from the,
all of that from just asking a different question.
Yeah, just from asking a different question and asking the right questions. I'm like, that's what happens when you can ask, or when you know how to ask the right questions. And I'm going to give one more example, so just to give you guys, you should sort of start to see how this works when you ask the right questions. So another question that Robin, you were alluding to in the beginning, was this piece that I was identifying a group of people who are merging, who really aren't getting anywhere with their online marketing efforts. I was one of them. I know, Robin, that you have put yourself in that category as well as one of these people. And for me, my problem was I hate social media. But I always felt like it was a necessary evil if I wanted to get clients. So what I had to do was figure out what's the real reason why I'm not getting anywhere with my marketing efforts and why social media wasn't working for me. And the answer that came to that was, well, because there's a lack of authentic connection for me. And then, so, and I'm giving you these questions really, it took me a while to figure out what these questions were, the right questions. But the next question, the best question that came up, well, what's the fastest, cheapest, easiest way for me to create authentic connections with potential clients? And after some research, the answer came, well, it's going to be Google Hangouts. And then what if I could create my own Hangout on Air show and use that to enroll new clients and customers? And so then the result of that was, okay, I started my own Hangout on Air shows. I started one called The Power of Practice and another one called Hangouts with Visionary Leaders. From that, I was able to create and launch the Hangout Strategies for Visionary Leaders program. I got the attention of industry leaders in my industry, and I doubled my income in less than a year. I think that's like the bottom line, is just that I was able to double my income in less than a year by asking myself the right questions. And like, that's sort of it, like how you asking the right questions becomes a very streamlined process in getting the right answers. Now we're going to go into that in just a moment, but anything you want to add to that, Robin?
I'm just so happy to be seeing this in black and white on a screen, because and reminding myself even of that question I asked myself that got me married and changed my whole course in my life. It's just so powerful to guide oneself or get the help to ask the right questions. So yeah, I'm looking for ways that you're going to point us towards being able to know how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you sort of get the idea, hopefully. If you don't get the idea, put a comment in and ask your questions for sure. How that flow of questioning works. Now, I'm going to be teaching you a practice in a few moments so that you can start to do the same thing for yourself in any area of your life. Now, those 2 examples I gave were business examples, but they were totally different. One was about, like, I'm just struggling in my business, and the other one was actually, one of them helped me to create a book and a product, and I didn't have any idea that any of that was going to happen. And then the other one was just like, I'm struggling in my business. So as you can see, they're totally different things. Those were business ones, but like Robin said, relationship. She just asked herself the right question. There's also, I want to point out, innovation and asking the right questions is sort of a popular thing, I think, from the research I've done in the realm of corporate leadership and corporate. There's a lot in the realm of visionary leadership in corporations, but really where my interest is for those of us who aren't necessarily working in corporations, but how do we take these same principles and apply them to our personal life? And for those of us who are solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, how do we apply them to our very small businesses that oftentimes are just one person, us, and maybe a few people that we contract out? There's not much out there in terms of how do you leverage inquiry to be innovative in those areas. So this is the exciting part, because I'm going to show you how these things work now. All right, are we ready to move on, Robin? Anything?
Yeah, and as it seems doable, if you can keep in mind, there's a question: how can I get over fear and procrastination around working on and updating my website? So as you're showing us things, maybe they can be flavored by that.
Awesome. So how can I get over fear and procrastination around working and updating my website? Yeah. So, okay, so that's from Pamela. And so, Pamela, let's look at some of these questions here. I think that the practice that I'm going to be showing will help with that question. And yeah, let's hop into it. So, first of all, we want to talk about two different types of questions. So there's the first type of question. Actually, let's see, there's two types, but there's actually a third bonus one. So the first type of question that we want to take a look at is the type of question that helps you to see the territory, that helps you to collect facts and really gain all of the pieces that you need to know about the problem or challenge that you're dealing with. And those types of questions are questions that are like the who, what, why, where, when questions. They are like the detective questions. The questions are these types of questions are going to help you to see what the real problem is. They're going to help you to see what you're really trying to achieve, or what's most important to you, or what caused the problem in the first place. I'm going to move back. I'm going to go back to my screen share so that I can you can see once again. Oops. Let's see, that's what I want to do. Okay, so let's go once again. So we're looking at questions that are going to help you see the Terry: who, what, where, why, when, how. They're going to help you to see what really caused the problem. Let's go back and look at this one. My problem was I'm not getting anywhere with my online efforts. I hate social media. Feels like a necessary evil. So I needed to start asking myself questions like, okay, well, what's the real problem here? How come I'm not getting anywhere with my online marketing efforts? So my question was, what's the real reason? What's the real problem that I'm dealing with here? And this was one question I asked myself out of a whole bunch of questions, but this was the best question that I came up with. And the answer to that was lack of authentic connection. So once again, you're asking yourself territory questions that are going to help you to see what the problem is that you're really dealing with. Who's involved with this problem? You know, who is contributing to this problem? What's the real problem here? What's the real reason for this problem? When did it happen? How did it happen? Who was a part of it? These are typical questions, especially in the corporate realm, that they ask when they're dealing with innovation, especially with products and services types of things. But they're equally as valid for our personal lives and for those of us that have small businesses as well. Does that make sense, Robin?
Absolutely, absolutely. I love the sort of idea of detective, you know, what's the territory, and that these are detective questions.
Yeah.
They're solid, tangible facts, just the facts.
Yeah, just the facts, exactly. So then what you're going to do is once you've done these questions, which are questions that help you see the territory, you need to go into questions that disrupt the status quo. Remember, we talked about that's one of the reasons why people don't want to ask questions, because they're afraid to disrupt the status quo. But you have to disrupt the status quo, whether it's your status quo or someone else's status quo. And a status quo is really just a belief system. That's the way I think of it. It's what is seen as common knowledge or common wisdom. So we need to question common knowledge, question common wisdom. What if? Why not? Why? Is it true? So let me go back to my example. This one? Yes. Okay. So my example of, it came to lack of authentic connection, fastest way, Google Hangouts. I had been, and again, I'm skipping a lot of questions that were in here for me, but one of the things for me for disrupting the status quo was everybody's using email marketing, and everybody says you have to have an email marketing campaign in order to get new clients and get customers and blah, blah, blah. And my question was, well, what if I don't have to use email marketing? I don't want to use it. What if I don't have to do video marketing campaigns? And on top of that, what if I could just use Hangouts on Air to get my clients? And so that was me using this line of questioning, is it true that I have to use email market? Is it true that I have to have a list in order to get new clients? Well, why not? I mean, why do I have to have a list? And what if I didn't have to have a list? Why not use Google Hangouts instead of a list?
Good.
So that's how that piece of the questioning really worked for me. And then finally, the last question, which I call the ultimate question. It's not really a type of question. It's what I call the ultimate question, which is how, right? Everybody wants to know how. And the problem is that most people ask how too early. They don't have the patience to wait before they ask how. They just say, I have a problem, how do I, they don't even try to disrupt the status quo. They just say, I have a problem, how do I fix the problem? So they go to what I call the ultimate question, the how question, which you have to ask. They get to that ultimate question too fast. They're too rash. They don't take the time needed to sit with the process of inquiry first before asking the how question. And how is the ultimate question, because I had no clue how I was going to get clients with Google Hangouts. That all had to come to me in bits and pieces. And I had no clue how I was going to teach people how to breathe correctly while exercising. Like, how am I going to do that? I'm not a yoga instructor. I'm a runner. How does that work? So that how, if I had asked that too early, I just probably would have gotten frustrated and overwhelmed and just given up, thrown my hands up in the air, threw the towel in and said, screw it, I'm not doing this. So
how asked at the wrong time is a showstopper.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking that you were saying that it was, who, what, where, why, how in the earlier stage, but now I see why it's so important to put how after the disrupting questions. That's so powerful.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Here's the tricky thing about how. Okay, there's a difference between how do I do this versus how did this happen. So when we look at those questions that help us see the territory of, the who, what, why, when, how, when I say how in that realm, I'm talking about how did this problem even come into, like, how did this happen? How did it happen that there was this problem? So that's a different type of how question versus the how question of, okay, well, now I have all these answers. How am I going to get from A to Z? Does that make sense, Robin?
Yes. So that's just so cool. So there's two kinds of how. There's a territory detective how. How did it get here? And then there's a how do I solve this, which is the bigger,
Yes.
like overwhelming, paralyzing question.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Totally. Exactly. All right. So, Pamela, if you're out there still, we're going to get in. Hopefully this is helping you with that question that you had around the feeling paralyzed with the website and all of that. But now what I'm going to do for you, Pamela, and for everybody else that's out there is to actually give you a practice that you can begin implementing right now, today, hopefully, to start to generate these types of really powerful questions that lead you to the conclusions that you, to the solutions. So I'm going to screen share once again here. As we do this, let's see. Yes, here we go.
Pamela says yes.
Yes. All right. So here's the practice. And I'm giving you the invitation to do this practice for 10 days. It's what I call a question storming practice. Question storming. And here's how question storming works. Is every day for the next 10 days, I invite you to take 15 minutes of your morning or evening, either one, to write 15 questions. So actually the first bullet point that I should have here is, you need to state your problem. You have to know what your problem is. So write down whatever your problem or challenge is, and then you're going to take 15 minutes to write 15 questions. You're going to begin with those territory questions that we talked about, the who, what, why, where, when, those ones. Then you're going to move on to disruptor questions. Well, what if, why not, why, is it true? Okay? Then you don't even ask the ultimate question yet. What you're going to do is pick your 3 best questions that you asked, that you wrote down from those 15 questions, and then ask them to yourself throughout the day. You just, like, when you're driving, you ask yourself those questions. You're, in the grocery store, you're, cooking, you're in the shower. Ask yourself 1 or all 3 of those questions, and just allow there to be space around the questions and allow the answers to emerge on their own. Allow the answers to those questions to emerge on their own. So for instance, what's the real problem to me of why my online marketing efforts weren't working? And it just came to me, it's because I'm not authentically connecting. And then, only then, when you really know that you found that answer, and you'll know that you found the answer because it gives you a charge in your body, you follow up with asking yourself the ultimate question while in a flow state. So you ask how. Well, then my question was, well, how do I create authentic connection? So you don't ask yourself that how until you get to that point. Now here's the kicker on all of this, and how it has worked for me with all of this, is that process, number 1, it takes time. Number 2, the vast majority of the process does not happen while I'm sitting at a computer while I'm working. It happens, for me, while I'm running, because running puts me into a flow state. It happens often for me while I'm cooking, like chopping vegetables, because I spend a lot of time making dinner, like have an hour of preparing food and stuff by myself. So it happens that I'm just sitting there with my own thoughts doing an activity totally unrelated to work. A lot of times it happens for people in the shower. When does it happen for you, Robin? You got in
Definitely the shower. Definitely the shower. Or I go take a walk with my dog and just try and forget about everything, and then that's when it just naturally will come.
Yeah. So that flow state is critical to this whole process of inquiry. Being in the flow state is absolutely critical, and asking that how question only comes after you've got the answer. So the question storming practice is not about finding answers, because the answers will emerge on their own as you continue to ask the questions. Because remember, going back to what we talked about before, when you ask the right questions, or just when you ask a question in general, your subconscious mind is going to start looking for the answers to that question. So you keep asking and keep asking that question, and when it's the right question, lo and behold, eventually, sooner than later, I'll tell you that, sooner than later, the answer will emerge, and it will feel very magical to you. And the flow state is a huge piece of it. So, yeah. So that's the practice, and what I want to do is move on. Unless we have any, actually, let me see. Do we have any questions before?
Not one, no. Yeah, we're good.
Are we good? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Oh, okay, cool. So here's the thing. The thing with all of this is that questions are absolutely a catalyst for helping us to get unstuck. They are a foundational piece for gaining insight and perspective. Questions and inquiry is a practice that is critical. But in and of themselves, questions and insight, the insight that you gain, they're not going to produce those breakthroughs that you're looking for. They're a fundamental necessity, but in and of themselves, the practice of inquiry is inefficient. So the final piece that I want to cover in the short amount of time that we have left here is to talk about the 5 areas of practice, and specifically the evolutionary practices that you need to use in addition to inquiry in order to, and to be engaged in on a regular basis, in order to have those innovations and those breakthroughs and those transformations that you're looking for. And don't worry if you don't know how to do these. If you need support doing that, I'll also be letting you know how you can get that support from me. But just for right now, what I want to do is get through the rest of this training and know that you need to be engaged in these other practices. So I'm going to go back to slide share again, so you can see how inquiry fits really, really nicely into all of this. So let me go back to the question storming. Okay, there's our question storming practice. And okay, so here's the thing. This is what I was saying, is that insight and inquiry is great. It's going to get you across town, but it's not going to get you out of town. And that's why we need to be focused on these other practices as well. And here's how I like to think of them. I like to think of them in these 5 ways. These are 5 areas of practice. Thinking practices are absolutely critical to be engaged in, because what they're going to do is expand your understanding and sense of reality. And I'll cover these a little bit more detail in just a moment as well. You need to be engaged in seeing practices, because seeing practices nurture your imagination. You also need to be engaged in shadow practices. Shadow is sort of a generic term for working with the unconscious aspect of our being. Those types of practices, what they're going to do is help us to reintegrate our inherent superhuman capacities. And that's sort of taken from Ken Wilber and integral theory. He talks a lot about our superhuman capacity, so I sort of borrowed that term because I thought it sounded really nice. And it's true. Also, shadow practices help to do that. We also need to be engaged in communicating and connecting practices. These practices are going to cultivate our ability to inspire and enroll others in our vision, sort of like talking about my daughter, my 12-year-old, getting her to clean her bedroom and my vision of having a nice, beautiful house means that I'm going to need to communicate and connect with her in a way so that I can inspire and enroll her into my vision of having a beautiful house, just as much as I need to cultivate my ability to inspire and enroll my business colleagues or team members or clients into my vision, inspire and enroll them. So it works at all levels here. And then you need to be involved in action practices, because action practices are going to foster your ability to take consistent and aligned action. So I want to go just a little bit further with this so that you get even more, well, what's the outcome of that? So as we look at our thinking practices, and these thinking practices that are going to help you to expand your understanding and sense of reality, really what that is going to help you do is to gain clarity so that you're no longer confused, you're not overwhelmed or unsure of what you're going to do next. These types of practices, these thinking practices, actually help to redirect your energy so that you're not all over the place, so that you're focused on exactly what you need to be focused on. Then we have those seeing practices, which nurture your imagination, and those will help you to tap into a source of unlimited creative ideas and solutions so that you don't get stuck for long periods of time, and so that you're not feeling frustrated and at a loss for how things get resolved or how you can break through to the next level. And then we have those shadow practices. Those types of practices are going to help you to step into your authentic power, and that does a few things for you. Number one, when we step into our authentic power, I think most of you know this here, that means that you're not giving your power away to other people. You're not hiding behind a mask of fake power, which unfortunately is a lot out there. Another piece of this is that when you're stepping into your authentic power, you can actually be fully present to your unique gifts and your creative expression in the world, and therefore how you contribute to your family, your community, to society, to this planet. And then probably one of the most important pieces of this shadow work is that it helps you to connect at a heart level with people when you're stepping into your authentic power. And then the next one of communicating and connecting practices, which help you to cultivate that ability to inspire and enroll others in your vision. That's really you becoming a visionary leader. I believe that everybody has the capacity to be a visionary and a visionary leader, whether you identify yourself as that or not might be something different. But when you step into your authentic power, most people do begin to identify themselves as, yes, I'm a visionary in this one aspect, and that's what happens. And then finally, as we have those action practices and foster that ability to take consistent and aligned action, what that does is it helps you to manifest your ideas into reality. And if we look at these even a little bit closer, these are 7 of the practices that are critical. I believe absolutely critical if you're looking for these breakthroughs that we've been talking about, and everything that we've been talking about today. We've talked about inquiry. We went over that in depth today. But in addition to inquiry, there's several other practices. I'm going to say there's just a handful of practices that I use on a regular basis. Meditation, mapping. I'm not going to go into all of these. Mapping, some of you may or may not be familiar with mapping. Not going to go into it right now, but that's another whole practice and process. Work of witnessing and doing shadow work around compassionate communication and taking aligned action. Some of you might be familiar with these at some level, might be doing all of these already. But the truth is that when you combine inquiry, when you combine this one piece that we've talked about today with these other practices and these areas of practice, you can absolutely expect to see quantum leaps. It wasn't only inquiry that helped me to double my income. I had done a ton of shadow work. I had learned how to cultivate and inspire and enroll others in my vision. I mean, there was a lot of action that had to take place in order for all of that to happen. So it wasn't just inquiry, but inquiry was absolutely the catalyst for all of that. So right now, some of you, I'm going to actually hop off of the screen share because I'm not a really huge screen share fan, but to demonstrate things, I think it's important. So here's the thing. Like I said, some of you, everything that we've talked about and what we just went over, you're like, yes, right on, got it, great. And then there's others of you who might be feeling like, well, yeah, I get that, but I don't really know what you're talking about, Lisa, and I might need some help. And I'm here to give you that help and to give you that support. And Robin, would you do me a favor and go ahead and go over to the button and go ahead and upload the button so that people can see that. And what I want to do is offer you guys, to give you guys some support, I'm offering a free 45-minute discovery session to those of you who feel like you want and need more support with this. And what we're going to do in that 45 minutes together is identify where your weak link is in all of those practices. You guys surely have some good strength now in the inquiry practice, but we have all those 5 areas of practice. We'll identify where your weak link is in that set of practices, and then which areas of practice you need to focus on, right, based on that weak link, and then given your current circumstances. And then we want to create a plan for where you need to go and how you need to move forward. So here's those of you, I believe, who should take advantage of this offer and schedule a discovery session are those of you who know that you're here to do big things in the world and make an impact, but you feel at a loss for how to do that right now, because in our discovery session what you're going to gain is a lot of clarity around that, and I think that makes you feel a little bit more secure, like, okay, I know what's going on here. Also, these discovery sessions are going to be great for those of you who feel like something is stirring inside of you and you don't know how to direct that energy. You haven't quite totally directed that energy yet. What will happen in our discovery session is that you're going to learn how to focus that energy and get directed so that you don't get distracted. A lot of us get all over the place here. And then also, if you feel like you're someone who's, okay, I'm already doing my work in the world and I do some of these practices, but I still haven't made that leap, that quantum leap that I want. And that's really indicative of some deeper shadow, some of the shadow practices. And what we'll do together is discover what's keeping you from making that leap right now. Like not 2 months from now or a year from now, but right now. And then finally, the other group of people who a discovery session is perfect for are those of you who are in a crisis or facing a big challenge or problem in some area personally or professionally that you know is going to require an innovative solution to get out of it. Because what we'll do in our discovery session together is give you sort of that plan for how you're going to tap into your inherent superhuman capacities. So again, Robin, did you get the, Robin should have put the little box up for you guys.
It should be there.
So there's a yellow box. This is how it happens. If you want to sign up for a discovery session, there's a yellow box that should have come up in your sidebar. All you need to do is click on that box. It's actually going to take you directly into my personal scheduler, and you can pick a time, a day and time that works well for you to schedule your discovery session with me. I do have a little bit of an intake form so that I can get some insight on you before we prepare for our session together. And yeah, it's really as easy as that. It's just my gift to you because I know that this type of information, as we're going through it, it seems easy. I was just on a call with a client before this, and he's like, well, you had me do this, and it seemed really easy, and then I tried to do it on my own, and it wasn't quite as easy as when we were doing it together. I'm like, so I know that happens. And the truth is that all successful people do have help. They have mentors. I know everybody from Tony Robbins to Richard Branson to Oprah Winfrey and Bob Proctor and Jack Canfield. All of these people have had guidance, they have help, they have someone helping them through this. So that's really my offer to you right now. So go ahead and take advantage of that if you feel that you fall into one of those categories. And then the other thing, as we close up here, just a few minutes over time, is that we're going to open up the green room after we shut down this broadcast. We're going to put, I'll actually do it right now, the link to join us inside of the green room to ask any questions that you might have about, to ask questions, to start strengthening your inquiry skills here. Ask any questions that you have. Meet Robin and I, and just hang out for a moment. That's one of the wonderful things, I think, about doing these live sessions like this. If you didn't catch it live and you're watching the replay, sorry you didn't get in on the live. But I
don't see it, so I'm going to post it too, Lisa, and see there.
Okay.
So one way or the other, hopefully it's out there.
That's actually the wrong one that you just put in there.
Is that the wrong one? Oops.
It needs to be, I'll actually do it really quick.
Okay.
It's a Hangout one. So here's the thing. You're going to use the link that I
grabbed the wrong one.
It's the Hangout one, and you do need to have a Google Plus profile in order to come into this green room with us, in order to hang out with us. Unfortunately, if you don't have one, it'll give you a little notification saying you don't have a profile, so you can't have access. But if you do have a profile, we'd love to see you in here. Ask any questions that you have. Just meet us. And is there anything else, Robin, that I'm missing?
I think that's it.
Anything on your notes?
Yeah, no, you've done such a good job of covering everything, and I just love things that hadn't occurred to me that you shared. So especially love hearing about inherent superhuman capacities. So yeah, I really encourage everybody to take advantage of Lisa's offer. That's a really generous offer and always useful to be able to get into one of those discovery type conversations with somebody as talented as Lisa.
Oh, thank you. And I do want to let you guys know I will send you not only the replay link for those of you who want to rewatch this, but I will also send you the slides that I just went through. I didn't show all of the slides because I'm not a huge slide fan, but it sort of outlines everything that we just went over. So I will send all of that to you in an email as well. Thank you all for hanging in there, staying with us for just a little bit over an hour today and spending the morning, if you're on the West Coast-ish, if you're on the East Coast, afternoon, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I hope to see you guys in our green room with us. So go ahead and click on that link to come into our green room. Click on the link to sign up for a discovery session, and we will see you all next time.